Greetings and welcome. I'm Dr. Bruce Corrie, Professor of Economics at Concordia University in St. Paul. Today, I'm going to make you an instant economist, how you can read the tea leaves to see what's going on in the economy. So let's begin. What I want to share with you today is a basic framework on reading the economic indicators to assess how is our economy doing. And there's this very simple framework for looking at the economy, which I hope you'll grasp and be able to implement as you go and dig deeper into this very exciting task. Where is the economy going? Are we going to go into a recession? That means there is going to be a lot of unemployment, people without jobs. Are we going to expand and grow? We're trying to read those tea leaves. So it's helpful to look at two balances in the economy, an internal balance and an external balance. And I'm going to explain to you a little bit more what this internal balance or external balance means. But basically, the internal balance is the internal health of the economy, and the external balance is the external health, how we relate with other countries and how are we doing there. So in internal balance, we're going to look at a few indicators that help us tell a story, and the most important ones are inflation and unemployment. It's like when you go to the doctor's office, the first thing they do, the nurse will take your temperature. The temperature will tell you whether there's an infection in your body or not. Similarly, inflation or rising prices gives us a sense whether the economy is heating up or it's moving beyond its capacity. And when that happens, there's likely to be a downfall. And the economy might start declining and people might start losing jobs. And so we want to watch out for it. So generally, economists say that zero inflation is around 2%. So we're going to watch that. Then we look at unemployment, and that is, are people getting jobs? And what's the unemployment rate? And how does this rate differ between part-time and full-time? How does it differ by race? Because this is going to, or by gender or by region. And so these are going to tell us some insights in whether the economy is working for all or not. So generally, again, economists would say around 4% of unemployment might be okay, but when it starts going beyond that, we're going to start getting concerned. GDP is the gross domestic product. This is an estimate of all that is produced in the economy. And we want to know whether this big engine called the economy, symbolizing the GDP, is it growing or declining? And that's going to tell us where the future might lie. Then we're going to look at budget deficits, and in budget deficits, typical household, if we are spending more than we are earning, we have a problem. And is this spending and this deficit increasing or decreasing? Then we're going to look at poverty rates to find out whether the economy is working for everybody. Are people being left out of the system? And it could well parallel the unemployment rates. And then sustainability, how are we doing in terms of the environment? And so that's what's going to give us a sense of the internal health of the economy. The external balance would be looking at, say, our trade relations. Are we importing more than we are exporting? If we have a trade deficit, it's not necessarily bad if we're using what we import to build our economy. We will look at our currency, that is the dollar, as it's exchanged for another country, say the euro or the yuan or the Japanese yen, because they're going to tell us how well other countries are demanding our money and our goods and services. And so if our currency is keeping on a stable level and not dramatically falling, for example, that would show that countries are losing faith in our economy. And that means something's going on inside too. We're going to look at investment flows to see, is foreign investors, are they investing in our country? Are we investing outside? And what are the trends? Usually foreign investment could be good for the country if it's going into new technology or things that we need. And finally, we look at the overall trade environment. What's the nature of our agreements with countries? Are we having basically an open trade, which is generally good for the country, for the world too? Or are people starting to erect barriers and conflict over trade? Because that might tell us what might happen in terms of external relationship. So all of these together will help us get a sense as to how we're doing in relationship to external economic relationships. So now let's put some of the numbers together from recent times. I went up to this website, Trading Economics, to pull up some indicators on current trends in the economy to see how is our internal balance and how is our external balance. So my general conclusion is that we don't have an internal balance, and why? When I look at inflation, it's 8.3%. Remember, I said 2% is zero inflation. This means that inflation is getting in that troublesome range, and there could be all kinds of reasons for that. The war in Ukraine, the COVID pandemic, and supply shocks in the global economy, all of them, or the pandemic spending that put a lot of money in people's pocket. And that's coming out in buying of goods and services. So we're going to have to watch that. Unemployment rate, there's good news there. It's gone down dramatically since the pandemic. It's only 3.6% now. That means it's the economic engine is churning, and we're going to be watching to see if factories are going to increase the capacity with new investments. But one of the troubling signs about unemployment is that when you look, say, in Minnesota, the Black unemployment rate is about double the white unemployment rate. So what it's telling us is that some people are still not benefiting from this economic growth, and what can we do about it? GDP trends, it's the economy, the big engine of this economy is going about 3.5%, down from the previous reading. And so there's some sign that we need to watch whether this economy is going to hold on. Our budget deficit is pretty high up there, 16.7%, and we got to watch on that. And some of this can be explained in terms of the pandemic and the crisis that we face, but long-term trends too are there, and we've got to monitor and keep track of them. Poverty rates, 14.4%. This rate seems to be going up now. And this is partly because some of the pandemic spending is down, and we want to monitor it to make sure that this rate does not increase dramatically, but we make progress in getting people out of poverty. And then when we look at a number of indicators on sustainability, for example, greenhouse gases, they're up in the economy, and so we got to keep track and attention to climate change. So internal balance, there's some questions. External balance, again, it's a mixed picture. Our trade deficit is still there. It's about 3% of our GDP, and it's going up. But if we are importing things like baby formula, it's something that we need. So we will have to monitor those trends to see where those excess of imports versus exports are going up. Some of it is pandemic related, where we need to increase our imports of certain critical items. Currency seems to be stable. Investment flows seem to be stable, but the trade environment is getting a little bit more hostile between the US and Russia, between China and the US, and the regional trade blocs that are happening around the world, and political alliances. So something to have watched for in terms of external balance. So in summary, internal balance, question about the increasing inflation in the economy. External balance, we are looking at this growing hostility in the world and what's going to happen. So what are people saying when they put together these numbers on inflation and unemployment and the trade deficit, internal balance and external balance? a mood in the country right now based on these numbers is that it's likely that we might go into a recession. That means there's high inflation, people are going to start cutting back, and suddenly people are going to start losing jobs, and the economy, this excess inflation is going to go out of the economy because of these business cycle and natural forces that come into play when things get overheated in the economy. And so there are countermeasures that can be done, and this is where the Federal Reserve Bank, the central bank, is trying to monitor in the interest rates, which influence how much money there's in the economy. But they need to do a whole lot of other things, such as in terms of what's happening in unemployment versus what's happening in trade. And together, it looks like while the overall economy seems to be in a pretty good, healthy way, a state, there are these troubling signs of recession that we've got to monitor. So if you were to, if you followed what I said, and you got a sense about internal balance and external balance, and you got a sense as to how to read these numbers to tell a story that, hey, you're just like me, you've become an economist, and congratulations. So till next time, keep looking at those economic indicators. Now I showed you how to do it, and see that you get a sense as to where do you think the economy is going. So till next time, take care and have a great day.